Hello, people of the world, and welcome back on the Mary in Motion podcast. Today I'm joined by someone who has lived many lives. It's Wellstad Jones, who started in the US Navy at Antarctic Pararescue Team, became an actor, then producer and director, and never stopped reinventing himself. Do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Well, I think it's just evolution, you know. It's going from one to another, and it has become something, I suppose, a life. It's become a life.
And a very full life. Today we will explore how you turn travel into adventure and adventure into purpose. But first I would like to say that you never focused in one thing in your life. And do you know where all of that exploration and adaptation came from?
Well, adaptation comes from adaptation. It leads to more adaptation. And I think that there has to be a spark within us that leads us to thinking beyond ourselves and seeing something beyond the horizon. And it's a level of curiosity and willingness, a willingness to go where you're being led to go, kind of, and accepting it. And I had to learn that pretty early.
Yeah, you told me that when you were young, you were already very interested in traveling.
Well, the traveling has been a part of it. It must be in my family's DNA because it started with a father being in the military. And when I was born into a family of twins. They were twin. I have two older sisters that are, about 2.5 years older. And they were born in Texas on an army base. He was a military man. He was an officer in the army. It was during the Korean War. He was a general's aide. And so they were born in Texas, and then suddenly he was posted in Stuttgart, Germany. And that's where I was born. And a year to the day, and just within hours, a brother was born. I mean, that's unusual. And then 2.5 years later, and he was born in Stuttgart also. So we're Americans born abroad is what it's called. And so then another set of twins were born on another army base in Oklahoma. And so there was traveling. It's kind of like, well, it's military. You get different orders to different places. And then we ended up in South Carolina, and then eventually in Vermont, where I went through school, in high school. And then from there went into the service. And so it was traveling. It was all, okay, pack your toys, pack your bags, put it together, and learning, and also learning to meet new people.
You became super adaptable and learn how to pack the bags super quickly.
Yeah.
And
it's
also being not afraid. Yeah. And being not afraid to change places.
That's right, Marie, but it's finding out. I mean, as much as there's a level of sorrow in leaving one place, it's like, oh, bye. And as little kids, but we were such a large family, we were kind of our own traveling troupe.
Yeah, I know that.
And so there was a bit of that. So we always had young people around us, our brothers and sisters, and saying goodbye to someone, we realized it's, very close to saying hello to someone else, in the next place.
In the previous meeting we had, you told me that your mother said something to you that I found very powerful.
Yes.
When you were 15 years old and you wanted to leave.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you want to share this story?
Imagine a 15-year-old kid going up to the mom. I mean, you can think of it a lot today, but back when I said it, it was like 1970, and standing there and being so cocky and bold and saying, "I'm leaving, Mom." And she said, "Oh, you are? Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I have friends now." And she said, "I understand. I had just come back from an international camp that really immersed me in meeting people from Sweden and Israel and Harlem in New York City and Spanish Harlem and Long Island and Israel and UK and Ireland, all meeting high school students. I was really the youngest, I was 15. And so most of them were 17 or 18 years old, like juniors or seniors in our school system. And so I loved it because where I was living in Vermont, my school was fed with people. The students in my class came from 5 different little hamlets or little towns. And my graduating class, I did end up staying, was 31. Okay, so I'm go to this camp. I come home all excited, all revved up to go and see my friends and all over the world. Of course, it's not reasonable, but it's what I'm thinking because I was very upset. I did not want to go continue school. School started. I'm back from the camp. And that's when I went to my mom. I said, I'm leaving. I don't have to live here. And she said, what do you mean? I said, this is not the place for me. Mom, I have friends all over. Well, where are you going to go? I said, well, Charles said I could live with him in Harlem. And this is 1970. And I was like, what? You want to go to Harlem? I said, well, yeah. And she said, let me tell you something. You have no business putting one foot forward until you learn to deal with where you are. Don't try to run away. See where you are. Look at the beauty around you, young man. There is so much here to offer you that you can take from where you are right now. And it's not, you can go visit Charles, but you should not run away. You'll be led to where you need to go when it's time. Right now, you're in school. You need to get through high school. And at that time, there's going to be a change. It's going to be a big change. I'm sure of it. I see a lot of things for you. But right now, look at that field outside our door. Look at the river. Why don't you go explore these places? Why don't you read Call to the Wild? I said, I don't want to read that book. I know about that book. I want to go to Alaska. She said, I understand. But you're in Vermont and you've never been here before. You've just been here a couple of years. Watch the people, learn about them. Be involved and stop commenting on all the little negative things that you think that just aren't what you deserve or you want or you think you need. You have everything that you need. Now, go forward, get through school. It was like live in the moment. And when I went into acting, that's the biggest thing that they say about acting in an acting school. They say, don't pull tricks. We're not looking for you performing some other actress, some little thing that you saw them do. We want to see you, be you in the situation. And so that lesson from my mother went with me with all the different disciplines that I've been able to explore. And it wasn't a choice. It was a choice saying yes because I was asked to do different things. And it was like I never thought of doing that. And they said, well, would you consider doing this? We see this in you. We think you can do it. And just going from one to another. And they were big. They were life-changing, transforming, because it's going into unknowns. That's what adventure is about, Marie. It's an unknown. I mean, you can plan, you pack your bag, you can get on a plane, but you're going to some place you've never been. And it's like you wake up and it's like, what am I going to do? Well, how am I going to explore this? It's a level of adventure. I feel that my whole life has been that.
And how do you think it changed the way you really traveled? Did you explore Vermont?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, that's where I learned to ski. That's where I learned to hike. I learned to hike on my own. The first round of going out on my own was a disaster because it scared me to death. And I was really too young. It was before I was 15, and I was taking, my father had passed on when we were all young, but he had an army backpack that was way too big for me. And it had a steel, back brace thing in it, and it bounced on the back of my legs, and I filled it up. I thought I was going to go for 2 nights. That would be good, 2 nights. And it was so heavy I couldn't carry it. And then I had that empty it. And what was I emptying? I was actually emptying books.
You
I
took
I
books.
decided, yeah, I thought, well, I want to read this. I mean, just not thinking, you know. I mean, at any rate, from there, I was able to explore, and I had people around me that were accomplished. Some men that were not. I mean, my father was not there, but what I saw around me, like the man that my sister married that lived across the street. When I say across the street, we're not thinking of a city. This is country. There was a house in the valley, that's us. Across the street, up there was another house, and then over there was another house, and then one kind of next to us, but very separated from each other. So it was rural, very countryside. But the influence of the people that I met skiing, and my brother, the man that became my brother-in-law, I would look at him and I was saying, how am I going to be? Will I ever be that strong? Could I do? And he was 5 years older than me. Could I ever play soccer, football in Europe? Could I ever play like that? Could I ski? He was a magnificent skier. I mean, just magnificent. And so I followed his lead, and yeah, I learned to do things.
And then you continued traveling a lot. And when did your shift from regular travel to adventures with purpose, where you wanted to do more than just traveling for your own?
Well, the whole concept of adventure with purpose really came out of a moment, probably after acting school and I was on a parachuting rescue team in Antarctica. And being a parachuting rescue team, we skydived in, it was precision landing, and we were there to help people that were in need down below. What was the need? Usually it was a plane mishap. Something happened in the plane trying to take off through the snow in Antarctica, and a nose ski or a wing dipping and breaking off, just a number of reasons for a mishap. But that's what was the team. So I went from there into acting, and it came when I had to really decide. It was with children, being married, and having to provide. And my wife worked as well, and I worked, and we had children. And it's like, what are you doing? How are you going to make ends meet? And it just happened that as I was thinking this through, I said, I want to be of value. I don't know all my skills. I've been a pararescue team member. I've done acting. I loved acting, but it seemed very selfish that I could act because but I just, I wasn't in film. I did a little bit of TV, soap operas and stuff like that, and some commercials that paid, but not enough stable, sustainable work as an actor. And my continuing to pursue it and maybe not getting cast was threatening the lifestyle of my family that I didn't want to, put them through. And so it was reaching in my thought for service. How can I serve? How can I take what as a prayer? Bottom line, it was like putting it out to the universe, to God, and saying, what should I do? And I had read before a quote from Churchill that talks about everyone in their lifetime gets figuratively a tap on the shoulder and offered an opportunity to do something very special for them, fitted to their talents. And what a tragedy it would be, this is part of his quote, if that individual was unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been his finest hour. And so in my mind, I'm thinking finest hour, what is it going to be? I'm totally, it's like, I'm not fighting, I'm not asking for anything, I just want to serve. And it just opened doors to people tapping me on the shoulder and saying, would you direct this show? They'd seen my acting, but they said, would you direct this? at Lincoln Center. It's a jazz show, and we have major jazz people. So I saw the show and I went, wow, I'd love to. You know, I it was an annual show, so I saw that had seen the show, and they were asking me, we think we need this to take a different direction. We like what you've done. We know a little bit about you, and so was able to move it into another level, the show that I'm talking about. And so that became something that my wife and I, with our background in acting and training, we created a production company. And so we found ourselves adventure with purpose. And the adventures was working with nonprofits that were serving children. And then from there, I went to a nonprofit that's kayaking across Long Island Sound. And it's inspiring people to kayak and to raise money to form a pod of 10 kayakers to go the 12 miles across Long Island Sound and come back, have a party, and then we would announce the foundations that we were giving the money that was raised to. Well, we worked up to 313 kayaks. There was 30 some odd pods, and the pods all had names. You know, seafaring names from wenches and pirates and swashbucklers, but they all competed with each other, raising money. We would bring in a major band on the beach. I'm in production, so I would bring these people, like Neville Brothers or Dickie Betts or the Whalers, and these are different years. I did it for 5 years. And we worked up to writing checks for $50,000 to 5 charities. Adventure with a purpose. So we're having
How
fun.
did it feel?
Well, one of the things is just there were almost 250 volunteers to make this happen. There were, it's a big production. When you have 313 kayaks lined up on a beach, getting ready, everybody's in flotation gear, they've got their food, they've got their safety stuff, and the paddles and a kayak, and they're grouped in tens. It's a quarter of a mile down the beach. You stand here and you look down the beach and the curve of the beach, and way down there is the last pod, of kayakers. How does it feel? Everyone felt they were doing something of value. These are people from the financial district in Manhattan, hedge fund guys. People with fabulous sums of money, to plumbers, carpenters, moms. Not one's better than the other. I'm just saying all kinds of people coming together and celebrating this adventure and raising money and seeing the fruit of it going to local charities. And they went to women's foundations. They went to Paul Newman's foundation. It was wonderful. It was just fabulous. And on the stage before the main attraction, we give the checks. We announce the checks because no one knows how much they're going to get. And suddenly they're getting a check for $50,000. And that was a lot of money. It helps,
Yeah, it's life-changing for some charities.
Sure. So that was one. And then, it led up to when Miles and I went to the Middle East. We wrote a book. I'm sure we'll talk about it. A Line in the Sand. It's Miles Spencer and Wells Jones. It's based on a 2006 Middle East trek. We wanted to see for our own eyes what was happening on the ground in Saudi, Jordan, Syria, and then we went into Israel as well. And we used the same model. Just the two of us raised money, and we gave a quarter of what we raised to a foundation. So it was an adventure with purpose. And then the book came out of it, after October 7th, the mess that happened then. But so adventure with purpose has been everything from running foundations to doing events. It's been a level of serving and putting myself, and I'll say ourselves, including my wife, my then wife for many, many years, in a position to literally say we can do anything we want, but what do we need to do? And being guided almost, the universe saying, here, this is where I want you. And so adapting, learning, always, every adventure raised the bar on an understanding of who we were, who I was, my capacity.
What is the book about that you wrote, Line in the Sand?
Right.
It's a travel story about two friends?
Yes, well, it does include that. It is a sleuthing adventure, and it is based on these two fellows. It's based on what Miles and I did in 2006. We did a trek from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, along the Red Sea coast, up through to Aqaba, which is at the end of the Gulf of Aqaba, and into Jordan. And it's following T.E. Lawrence, who was a British officer during World War I that was really the representative of the British and the French with the Arabs during the war. The Arabs were fighting for their independence, and they were promised that by Lawrence, by the British and the French. But a secret agreement was made that after the war, what do you want? France talking with Britain and Britain talking with France. What do you want to keep from this area for ourselves? And that has been the foundation to the problems that we deal with right now in the Middle East. But I must say very quickly that yesterday, the Palestinian people now have an embassy in London, and the British have, for the first time, recognized the historical mistakes that our book brings out. So we presented a primer in a very we think it's entertaining. People say, oh, this is really cool. In an entertaining way, following Magnus and Finn to the history of how we got into this crisis that has led to Israel and Palestine. But it was all really 9/11 was a reaction to the perceived, missteps of America and the Britons and the French that go way back. And so the book presents that, and it includes young people as well. So you get a sense of where the young thought is, as well as where Miles and Wells or Magnus and Finn, where we land.
So you wanted to go there to see things for yourself so you could write them truly in the book? You didn't believe what the media was saying?
We didn't know that there was going to be a book. We figured that we would write a book at some point, but we were at the very beginnings of producing a Broadway play. And that Broadway play was called, at that time, A Line in the Sand. And we had a writer, and we ended up having another writer, and then we ended up having another writer, and then we ended up having a fourth writer. And it is a woman now, and she's American. All the others were British. And they weren't able to give us what we wanted. Though we worked with them, it just didn't gel. The play that we have now is called Dinner at the Majestic. And we're at the very final stages of development with it to get it on its feet. Not necessarily on Broadway first. It would be worked out in workshops and worked out in the regions is the way before, if it's good enough, go to Broadway. But we have a Broadway executive producer that's been working with us. And so that we picked up the Broadway executive producer in 2005 when Miles and I conceived this idea. And we were going to see for ourselves because it was a part of the play. It was something to get a real understanding of this man, Lawrence, loved the people. He knew the Jews, he knew the Arabs, but he worked mostly with the Arabs. And he loved the region. He thought it was so pure. He fell in love with the Bedouin people, the simplicity of their life. They liked him. And we wanted to see if we could feel the same way, because at the time, in 2005 and 2006, there was a war going on, and it was all retribution for what had happened in 9/11. And we were still battling with all the terrorists. And at the time, the headlines were anything to do with Arabs was negative, and we're going to get them. And so, and there was one terrorist group, and then another one would pop up. I mean, there's so many names of terrorists leading right up to Hamas in Palestine and the mess. But so the idea was to, in writing the book, we decided to write it after October 7th, 2023, and the horrible, heinous crimes that were committed, and the shock that shocked the world, like 9/11 shocked the world.
Did you get yourself in difficult situations while you were over there?
I would say that our training had us very alert as to avoid and how to walk through towns and cities, and how to talk and deal with the cultural customs of wherever we were. And no, we did not feel any real sense of personal danger, but the way people lived, particularly around the border getting into Israel from Jordan. We went across on the King Hussein Allenby Bridge. It was particularly aggressive, but it's aggressive for a reason, because it's a very hotbed. I mean, like right now, we wouldn't be able to go. We wouldn't go. I mean, it would be way too dangerous to be a part of that, be thrust in the middle of all that. But the aggressiveness at the border was very clear. It was out of Israel protecting themselves from people that would blow, terrorists, in their mind, terrorists. And so we felt that. We went through 39 checkpoints. Checkpoints are where your car is stopped or you are stopped, whether you're on a camel or walking, and you have to present your passport. And when people saw that we were Americans, they were very surprised.
They don't see a
I
lot
would
there,
say
maybe.
oh, no, not then. People were, it was a constant question when they're holding, this is not the passport I had. The passport I had was so thick because I had had it extended. But this is my new passport. And you hand this passport to people, and it says, United States of America. It's astounding how powerful just this was in that situation. And they opened it up almost with reverence and check things out. And they say, America. This is in Saudi. We say, yes. You are welcome. And hand it back. Or they say, why are you here? Miles had it down in Arabic. We're here to see with our own eyes, to meet your people. And that was the intention. And so we didn't have pushback from people. We had surprise. We had situations where we had to empty our pack in very remote areas where we were having a checkpoint, and explain every little piece that was in the backpack, because there was technology and they didn't know. It's like this right here is a PLB. It's a personal locator beacon. And you get the antenna up. This is the one we use. Now you have watches that can do what this does. But we had this programmed to set it off. Then we would hide it or put it near something in case of mortal danger, because we were trained, and we were trained with an understanding why about kidnap and ransom. and being very clear, particularly in Saudi, and what to do and how to behave in those situations. So we had equipment that was brand new. This was brand new. And when we took it across the border into Israel and immigration, the immigration officer, a woman, was like saying, "What is this?" I said, "It's a personal locator beacon." She's reading it. She's going, 406 megahertz. I said, "Yes. We don't have that yet. Yet." Okay. "Who are you? Why are you here? Where have you been?" She looks in the passport. "Why you go to Saudi Arabia? Why are you in Saudi?" You know, it was very, because why are you in Syria? Because they don't, back then it was highly frowned upon. And so we weren't in danger, but we were definitely in some instances grilled. But then in the end, it was, we're Americans. We didn't say it just by virtue of the passport. And they were basically, we weren't getting the rough treatment that we saw some others getting. You know, when you go through immigration or even go through TSA and they look in your backpack or they look in your things and they start like almost tossing things out to get to what they're looking for. And things land on the floor, and they're your personal items, you know, and you're going, whoa, 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 whoa. But there was a lot of that with other people at immigration. There were no signs going into Israel, "Welcome to Israel." And often in other countries, we've seen, "Welcome. Welcome to this, welcome to that, welcome to Dubai." In Dubai, it's massive. They had great big huge media displays and it says, "Welcome to tomorrow." You go, wow, you know, because they're so progressive, you know, but not in Israel. And with the news from yesterday and today, with the two states, with Palestine being recognized by the United Kingdom as a separate state, is so huge, Marie. It is so big because it was Britain that set up the Zionists being allowed to go into Israel, to Palestine. It wasn't called Israel, it was just Palestine. And to create a homeland. And whatever course is taken, we've seen it, that's the course is taken. And now it's very clear from the UN that one side is practicing genocide. It has been declared. And so we wanted to understand that also in going, understand what is this, Israel, what is the Palestine-Israel conflict, and seeing it and seeing settlement, seeing bulldozers bulldozing old olive trees and asking the driver, "What is that?" And he's saying very clearly, "That is Israel claiming our land." I'm going, "Are you he's Palestinian." He was talking, and then getting in that mix and feeling the anger and a little bit of the hatred, but nothing like what happened on October 7th. And I produced events out on, next to the beach with, nearly 5,000 people. And I can't imagine when it happened. That's all I could think of. And it was just horrific in my mind's eye. And then seeing pictures of a concert goers being decimated.
And so you think that if people read your book, they might have some insights on the conflict and how it was before and why it evolved in that way?
Well put. Yeah. Yes. Because it brings up the very agreements and declarations and some of the writings that established the foundation of how things were going to go, and the reader can, figure it out for themselves whether it was that a good choice or a bad choice.
You don't give answers, you just gave the
Nope.
facts.
That's right. It made some, we've had a couple of reviews that said, it seems like you're leaning a little bit one way over the other. And they go, well, that's your view. We were writing what was very clearly what we experienced. And it is fiction. There is fiction to it, but it's not in the essential parts involving the history. There's a time travel device, and that's just a device to, that we could, as we were traveling through the Middle East, we would stop in a particular city where something major happened in history, and then going, let's go back. And it's a dagger in the story, and we set the cryptex, and then boom, we're back in time. We're eavesdropping on and telling the story of what actually happened in history at that moment in time. That with the effort to, it's a primer with giving the readers an idea of the foundation of the issues.
I will definitely read it. I will
Cool.
tell you what I
Cool.
think about it.
I would be happy to hear it.
And looking back at everything you have done in your life, what keeps you chasing these experiences?
Well, taking on the different experiences has to do with taking on something that I don't know, and I don't know its outcome. So it's an adventure. And so it's always thought of as an adventure. I'm in a whole new business with Miles, and now we have quite a team, and it's growing, and it could be the biggest thing we've ever done. It could be a real global thing. It's called Reflecta, reflekta.ai. We'll post a link maybe on the website. You're on the show, but I won't go into it. But I hope people will check it out. And it has to do with, again, there's a period where one can panic. And it's like they could be between jobs, they could be having to move, it could be a loss in the family, a partner, and a transitional time. And it's during these transitional times when life really seems cruel sometimes, unfair, even as an adult, even after going through a lot, to feel a little self-pity, but losing sense of the now, in that there's more ahead. It's like work through the issues and put your desire out there. Miles did it. He came up with this idea with another guy. And then from there, I became involved and other people became involved. Sort of the team that goes way back to when we did the journey in 2006. And even before that, when we did Money Hunt, the television show, there are some key players. There's a half a dozen key individuals that have been pulled back in. And at different times we do that. So we've worked together for off and on for different years. And this is the biggest venture we've done yet. And curiosity, it's like it's an adventure. And there are things that I don't know. It's like doing a podcast. 9 months ago, doing a podcast was like, ooh, what am I supposed to do? What am I going to say? What, I mean, I can talk about the book, but, and then doing a couple and a couple more. And since, it's around 60 hours, but it was exciting. I'm not chasing anything. I'm living with it. We've come up with a whole new concept of how to serve, not just an event, but how to serve mankind.
Wow.
That's what Reflect is about. It's deep, and there are many unknowns, and there are many guardrails to protect people and to make this happen. And everything in our being says, go. This is good. Go. You're doing good. Go. go. And so we're, soon in our country, it will be in national media. That's how, and it's been since January, and it's a whole new idea, reflecta. It's called soul tech. So we're bringing humanity and technology together, not in a game, not in something to do faster with AI. It is about connecting family with family for generations.
I will put the link in the
Good.
description so people can check what it is about. I wanted to ask if you had an last advice for our listeners, but I think you pretty much said that, like, during the whole session, that we had to stay open and be open to opportunities. But I think your life is very inspiring with all the things that you did, and you think very enriched, or like you think quite happy with your life. And I think it's a goal for some people. So if you have a last advice on how to achieve this.
Well, I think trust, self-trust, not in all the likes and dislikes or in social media, but truly we have within our control what we think and our actions. And if we really take agency with that, really grab hold of that and leave the things that are outside of our control. You and I both know we don't have no idea how this podcast would go, but we're interested. It's an adventure in a conversation and seeing things that way. But more importantly, trust your inner thought. It's not a negative thought. It's a positive thought. It can be a positive thought about, no, I don't want to do that. But it's not, that stinks. Not only that, it's this, it's like, spend no time with that. You don't have to do that. Trust and be open. It's like hands this way and just, what do I need to do? I am complete. I can offer. I have something to offer that's uniquely mine to give. And so that's part of it. What can I do for someone else?
Yeah, thank you for this advice. I really like it. I will try to apply it in my life.
Me too. We get the opportunity every day, and it doesn't always work out, but it's an aspiration.
Well, thank you very much for taking us on your journey. And I really loved talking with you, and I hope the listeners did too. I will link all of the book in the description and your new company so people can check it out if they want to. So
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Total pleasure. Thank you, and all the best with this. May you get listeners.
Thank you. And see you in the next episode. Bye bye.